Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to continue on our series of looking at our category breakdowns for the upcoming Academy Awards. And in today's category breakdown, we are going to be looking at the Best Cinematography category. Now, we're going to continue to do what we've done in the previous category breakdown episodes, where we're going to name each of the nominees in the category. We're going to look at the cinematographers that are nominated with the film, a couple facts about them and the film that they're nominated for, and then at the end, I will give my personal ranking and my prediction for how I think that the films are going to fare. And then one quick note before we get into this, I was looking at all of the nominees in this category, and a lot like I think it was the makeup category, or no, it was the production design and set decorators. Much like that category, the production design category, all the nominated members here in this category, they're combined for 14 nominations throughout their careers through the various films they've been nominated for. Combined for 14 nominations, but they are all looking for their first win. So someone is going to become a first-time Oscar winner on March 10th. So without further ado, let's take a look at the nominees. The first nominee that we're taking a look at is El Conde. Cinematographer Edward Lockman. This is Edward Lockman's third Oscar nomination. His previous two nominations were for shooting Todd Haynes' Carol in 2015 and Far From Heaven in 2002. Lockman is a longtime collaborator with Haynes, having also shot The Velvet Underground, Dark Waters, and I'm Not There. Now, coming into this Oscar season, a lot of people were comparing El Conde to being this year's Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths from last year, solely because, it's the foreign film with the black and white cinematography. And obviously, they do have that in common. El Conde does have the black and white, kind of smoky cinematography throughout the film. But I think when I first watched El Conde last year, I think maybe I kind of had that in mind of just being like, oh, that's just a black and white film that's going to get a cinematography offer. So it kind of felt like a cinematography nomination. So for me, it just kind of felt like, oh, doing my homework of watching a potential Oscar nominee when I was watching it last year, and I didn't really enjoy it as much. I rewatched it a couple days ago, as part of my rewatching every single thing that's nominated for an Oscar. And honestly, I liked this film a lot more on a second watch. It was really a lot more enjoyable of a time, and for me, I think a big part of that was the cinematography. It really added to the film. It really added to the atmosphere of the film. And for me personally, there's a couple different shots, a lot of outdoor shots. Scenes that happen outside that are beautiful. There's a scene kind of early on in the film, as a lot of characters are traveling on a boat, and just kind of the boat cinematography as they kind of pan out and you see wider shots of like the ocean, but then even you get some shots from inside the ocean that were done really well. And then just there's a lot of scenes. I don't want to give, if you don't know much about this film and if you're interested in seeing it, I don't really want to give too much away. But there are kind of a lot of kind of flying shots, where the camera is up in the air and it's kind of flying through the sky, and so it's in those shots it also looks really, is really well done. So there is a lot of the outdoor shots that look really good, but obviously a big part of the cinematography nomination is the smoky indoor black and white, the style of the shooting with kind of that extra like kind of smoke look that's going on in the indoor. So it, like, you get the characters and they're framed in very cool ways with kind of just like, again, that kind of that smoky cinematography coming off of them. That's that aspect of it is the big thing of why El Conde did get an Oscar nomination for cinematography. For my personal ranking, I'm putting El Conde in third, and then for my prediction, I'm going to put it in fifth. This is the one I have the hardest time seeing winning. Next nominee that we're taking a look at is Killers of the Flower Moon. Cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto. This is Prieto's fourth Oscar nomination and his third nomination in collaboration with Martin Scorsese. He was nominated for Scorsese's The Irishman in 2020 and Silence in 2017. He was also nominated in 2006 for Brokeback Mountain. Prieto was also the cinematographer for Barbie. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon, it has a lot of shots that kind of the beauty of the cinematography is capturing large groups of people. There's numerous scenes throughout the film where there is a lot of different, of characters that are in big groups, where you're going to have some of, the Osage tribe, some of the scenes. There's, kind of the one scene in particular where it's, the they're kind of having the meeting, discussing about what they're going to do, and so you just get these big group shots, and so you get multiple scenes where it's camera work is done exceptionally well, where you're capturing large groups, and then obviously with Killers of the Flower Moon, you have a lot of great outdoor cinematography. Obviously, kind of a couple of the standouts for me, kind of the highlights that first come to mind, is kind of honestly the beginning of the film, kind of the discovering the oil scene, and then a little bit later in the film, there's kind of the house burning scene. So there's a couple specific scenes that are shot really well, but another just a strong part of the cinematography for Killers of the Flower Moon is just kind of I guess the transitions between scenes, or just kind of setting up, but before shots of just kind of, you get these shots of nature, you get these shots of the flowers or different things like that, just different little small moments that I love that obviously Killers of the Flower Moon over 3 hours long, and Scorsese still was able to find time in the film to be able to just capture the beauty and capture this tribe in this area, and being able to just kind of give you a beautiful picture of what life is like for them at this time, and I think just through using being able to kind of carve out the time in the film to just kind of add that extra element through beautiful cinematography work, I think is an excellent decision for Scorsese. So my personal ranking for Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be fourth, and then my prediction is going to be third. The next nominee that we're taking a look at is Maestro. Cinematographer Matthew Libatique. This is Matthew Libatique's third Oscar nomination. His previous two were in 2019 for A Star is Born, which was also directed by Bradley Cooper, and in 2011 for Black Swan. Other films shot by Libatique include The Whale, Don't Worry Darling, and Requiem for a Dream. And kind of similarly to El Conde, Maestro is also partially in black and white. There is some black and white cinematography, and sometimes black and white sometimes maybe seem to be used as kind of like a gimmick, I guess. For some people, kind of might not view black and white as kind of this expertly crafted cinematography choice. But there's no denying that the Academy loves a good black and white cinematography. They love a good film that has black and white sequences, and Maestro does. But the kind of the highlight um, for me, for the cinematography for Maestro, is the way that it captures Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan, the way it captures their characters and their love story. There are so many great scenes of just the two of them talking, and their kind of their romance, and the way that the cinematography is done, the way that the film captures their romance in such an interesting way. I mean, obviously, kind of the standout scene is, I guess there's kind of two for me. There's kind of the one when they're outdoor, the balcony scene, but then kind of the big one that really stands out to me is like the park scene when they're kind of sitting back to back, like in the park. The way that the camera is able to kind of capture the beauty of their relationship is really impressive to me. But it's also kind of the same thing with kind of the arguing, the fighting scene that they have, and kind of the what's kind of happening in the background, the way that scene is shot as well, the way that the cinematography kind of captures the highs and lows of their relationship. For me, that's kind of the highlight or the standout of the cinematography for Maestro. On my personal list, I'm putting Maestro in fifth, and then my prediction is I'm predicting this to be fourth. The next nominee that we're taking a look at is Oppenheimer. Cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema. This is Hoyt van Hoytema's second Oscar nomination. His previous nomination was in 2018 for Dunkirk, which was also directed by Christopher Nolan. Other Christopher Nolan films shot by Hoyt van Hoytema include Interstellar and Tenet. Now, Oppenheimer makes it 3 films in this category that are in the cinematography category with some black and white cinematography. Obviously, the black and white cinematography here by Christopher Nolan was done as a way to kind of differentiate point of views between Cillian Murphy's character and Robert Downey Jr.'s character. But there was that black and white cinematography that was used and does look really, really good. But Oppenheimer also just has a lot of other, just even in the color, they have a lot of other things going for you. Obviously, kind of got the cinematography with like the explosions with the bomb, as well as I don't know exactly how to describe this, but kind of especially early in the film. I think it's like the first 10 minutes as the score is playing, kind of the fusion and fission kind of like breakdown that's going through. There's a lot of shots of just kind of like Cillian Murphy like daydreaming and just thinking about science, and you kind of get like the shots of like the atoms and just different things like that are just kind of the science shapes or whatever, but it's through like really cool like either close-up shots of stuff, or it's kind of kind of the far out kind of almost looks like space type of the shots and cinematography that's being done there. And so there's different, so much unique kind of different things within the cinematography of Oppenheimer that kind of makes it stand out and makes it different from some of the other films. But I think a lot of it, and when you think of just iconic shots from Oppenheimer. You think of just kind of the most memorable moments, the most memorable scenes, the most memorable frames. A lot of it is just kind of reaction shots, just close-up shots of Cillian Murphy's face, especially because there's so many shots in the film of him just processing and of him just contemplating what he's done or what he is doing, and just the way that the camera work of just kind of constantly cutting to not necessarily like a reaction shot, but just a shot of Cillian Murphy of Oppenheimer, of J. Robert Oppenheimer's face as he is just processing, what's going on or what's happening. I think is potentially, kind of just an underrated part of the cinematography work, but in reality, it's probably the most memorable stuff because obviously, I mean, you just think of, I mean, just the final frame of the movie, kind of the last shot of Cillian Murphy staring at the screen, you see how big that kind of meme has kind of blown up, and so that's a highlight of the cinematography. And then obviously the kind of the best part and the reason the cinematography does look so good is because obviously it was shot with IMAX cameras that were it was designed and designated to be able to be blown up onto the biggest screens possible. And so anytime you're shooting with that high quality of cameras for the biggest screen possible, everything just gets an extra boost. It's all just enhanced to the point where just the cinematography of Oppenheimer, it's undeniable. It's all beautiful, and it's one of the biggest reasons that just so much of the technical craft of Oppenheimer works, and why it's going to win so many technical Oscars on March 10th is just the cinematography is kind of the tipping point of everything else just kind of working so well. The film just looks so beautiful, and it all just comes together beautifully. My personal ranking of Oppenheimer, I'm going to put this in second, and then my prediction is I am predicting this to win. And the final nominee that we're taking a look at is Poor Things. Cinematographer Robbie Ryan. This is Robbie Ryan's second Oscar nomination. His previous nomination was in 2019 for The Favorite, also directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Other films shot by Ryan include Come On, Marriage Story, and American Honey. And so for Poor Things, kind of the highlight of the cinematography is as Bella, as Emma Stone's character, is kind of traveling the world. There is just so much great outdoor cinematography. Obviously you've kind of got like the boat scene, the gonna have kind of the outdoor scene when Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo's character kind of sitting on that park bench and it's snowing. There's just a lot of great outdoor cinematography, just like again as they're traveling the world. They're in so many different unique. There's kind of the scene with Bella as she's kind of, and I believe it's with Gerard Carmichael's character as they're kind of going down those stairs. There's just so many, just any time that she's outside, they really make it a beautiful scene. They really kind of capture whatever area she's in, and they really make it really impressive, kind of the area that she's in, and they make it look really beautiful. And and obviously a big part of that is a lot of kind of the sky in particular. In a lot of scenes it's looks very beautiful. It's edited and colorized to look good. And then there's obviously just a lot of shots of like the buildings, kind of the unique looking buildings. And it kind of seems repetitive that I'm saying this so many times with Poor Things, that I think a lot of the technical crafts work so well. Again, I've mentioned this with the costume design. I've mentioned it with the makeup. I think I've mentioned it with the production design, and now I'm mentioning it again with the cinematography. I think for Poor Things, I think so much of what works so well. Maybe this is just a me thing. Maybe it only really works well for me. But for me, I think the reason a lot of it works so well is because of how close and how normal it all feels to being like a normal, just real world situation that they're in. But then it's always just tweaked a little bit. There's an extra little pizzazz added on to the scene, to the costume design, to the makeup, to the production design, and again to the cinematography, where it just kind of adds that little bit of extra flavor, the little bit of extra kick that just kind of makes it more unique and more different, sets it apart from things that you haven't seen before. And so I think that's a big thing for me of why the cinematography, especially in Poor Things, it works so well for me, and it looks great. So my personal ranking of Poor Things, I am putting this in first, and my prediction is I think this will be the runner-up. And that's it. Those are the nominees for Best Cinematography at the upcoming Academy Awards. Let me know down in the comments below what film you're rooting for and what film what film you think will win. And then, as always, let me know of any films that you think were potentially snubbed in this category that should have gotten a look. And then, as well, let me know what categories you'd like to see me do breakdown videos of next. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.